I'm going to rank every single sword in Blox rules in a tier list, so we can test out which sword is the best and which sword is the absolute garbage. And I will be determining the sword by its visuals, damage, mobility, and special features. And I'm starting with the basic katana. Now let's talk about the damage first. And as you can see, the damage is pretty mid. It only does nearly 2k damage, and the M1s are also pretty mid. No special effects and no visual effects and no mobility. And for the X move, it just does slightly more damage, but it's still pretty mid. So that is why the katana is going to the F tier. Now one katana might not be good, but what about two katanas? Now I like the fact when she holds it, and also the Z move is pretty good for stunning, even though it's cannibal. And don't even get me to the X move. The X move actually breaks your instant, and it also stuns your enemy, despite it's really mid. So that is why I'm honestly going to rank the dual katanas into the E tier. Now the final sword is the cutlass, and the cutlass represents Goldie Roger in One Piece. And the visuals, I mean the outlook is pretty okay. But the damage is the same as the katana, and the visuals are also the same as the katana. So there's nothing place to go except for F tier, but above katana. The next sword I'm going to talk about is the Iron Mace. Now the Iron Mace is a little bit different to other swords. It does a slam at the third M1. And for the moves, let's test the Z move. Okay, yeah, it's just pretty mid damage. And this move breaks your instant too. Both moves actually breaks your instant, but the animations are pretty mid, even though you literally cannot can-trick this. So that is why the Iron Mace is going to the top of the F tier. Now, even though both moves destroys your instant, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have stuns compared to the dual katana. Now the next sword is the Shark Saw, and this sword is used by Arlong the Fishman. And the damage is... Wait, this got buffed? There's no way it does this much. I think the damage got buffed by the developers, but as you can see, every fourth hit, you slam the enemy onto the ground, which does a little bit knockback, similar to the Iron Mace. And this sword, the Z move... Wait, it does 4k, almost 5k. That's crazy. They probably just buffed it secretly. And I'm not even using any sword buffs accessory. Like... This accessory doesn't give any sword buffs. I mean sword damage. And for the X move, it's just similar to the Spin Fruit X move, but the damage is somehow does 5.4k. They probably just buffed this sword. But even though they buffed the damage, it doesn't matter because both moves are cannibal. So that is why the Shark Saw is going to the E tier above the dual katana, because the damage is just much better, even though both moves doesn't break your instant. The next sword is the Triple Katana, represents a Sorrow in Annie's lobby. Now the Triple Katana, the damage is pretty mid, but and it's also both moves are cannibal, which means you can easily can-trick them. But the X move is where it comes in clutch. It represents a Sorrow using the Onigiri move, which is honestly a good reference. Just because of the reference and a little bit of good visuals, I'll give it an E tier. But it's lower than a Shark Saw, because it's still mid. Now the final uncommon sword is the Twin Hooks. I like the fact she holds it, and the Z move actually does decent damage, and it's pretty good combo potential. And the M1s are really fast. And when you hold this move, it does a pretty good visual, which I bet you guys definitely don't know about this. And the damage when I aim to that guy, the damage is okay. And it also has good combos with the X and then do Z move. It's pretty okay in combos. So I'm giving the Twin Hooks a D tier. The next sword is probably the worst sword in the... I mean, no, not the worst, but pretty bad sword. Now let's test the Z move. The Z move just dashes you forward. Yeah, like this. Damage-wise, not really that good. And oh my god, what is that damage? And for the X move, it does still pretty bad damage. So that's why I'm giving the dual-headed blade an F tier. And it's below the Iron Mace, because Iron Mace at least breaks your instant. The next sword is the Warden sword, and the Warden sword... Oh my god, what is that damage? But the Z move breaks your instant. The X move just easily cannibal. That's why I'm giving the Warden sword and F tier, below the Iron Mace, because you probably land Iron Mace easier than Warden Sword. Now, I know you guys might think I'm delusional for ranking the next sword pretty low tier, but it is because of Trident's Z move. Just look at how slow it goes. Like, it's not even a spiky Trident. It's just so much. You're not going to land this in a combo. But the X move has a little bit of use, the X move. First, the X move breaks your instant no matter what. Second, the AoE is okay, and the damage wise is alright. And I also like the water effects on the Trident, so I'm giving the Trident an E tier. But it's still below Shark Saw because Shark Saw does more damage. Now the next sword I'm going to test is the Pipe. The Pipe is used by Sabo in One Piece, and damage wise, the X move first does 5k. It's somehow below the Shark Saw. And the Z move is okay damage, 3.7k. But the problem is both moves are easily dodgeable with instant. But the visual effects are actually so good. Now before you guys flame me, I'm giving the Pipe an E tier below the Shark Saw because both moves are easily cantricable and the damage is lower than the Shark Saw.
Meanwhile,
okay, I just realized I joined the wrong server. I joined into Misa server, which is HyperJ's admin, and he has to use the server for PvP, so I'm not going to bother him and I'm just gonna use another server. Alright, the next sword, the Soul Cane. Now this sword is so good for skilled PvP, especially when you have Dark Fruit. Now the Z move stuns the enemy for like almost a second, and it's similar to IC move, which stuns the enemy but a little bit shorter. Now for slow slashes, the X move, this move is easily cantricable, can be dodged with instant, but the damage is okay. I'm giving the Soul Cane a C tier. It doesn't deserve B tier because like not everyone is that skillful. The next sword is the long sword, and why do I hold it like that? That's so weird. Anyways, let's test the Z move. I'll say it's okay since the visual effects are pretty cool, the grass, but the damage is okay, not really that bad or good. Like it's pretty okay for 4.5k. And for the X move, you just smash on the ground like this. And the visual effects are so good. But the damage is lower than Shark Saw, but it has more mobility than the Shark Saw. I'm going to give the longsword a D tier, below the twin hooks. Now I know you guys might not agree for the next sword ranking, but just look at the Z move. It does 5.5k and it blinds the opponent. And the X move, you just teleport to your opponent and does 5k damage. This sword is criminally been slept on. Just look at this, man. Just look at this. It's comparable with the Dark Blade. Like, look at this. Look at this. Look at that. That's a one-shot combo, literally. And unlike the Dark Blade, this sword blinds your enemy, even though it does only a little bit less damage than the Dark Blade. And the mobility is way above the Dark Blade, so that's why I'm giving it a B tier. Don't even question it. The next sword, the Dragon Trident. This sword has one of the biggest AoE in the entire game. Like the Z move does 5.2k, and most importantly the X move. Like the X move literally has insane AoE, and most importantly, both moves actually breaks your instant. You cannot cantrick both moves. And the visual effects, mobility, grinding, everything else is perfect except for it's bad in aerial combat. So that's why the Dragon Trident is an easy S tier. The next sword is the Gravity Cane, and it's the most commonly used PvP sword in the entire game. And let's talk about the Z move. It pulls your enemy into you and you can combo him whenever you want. Like that's an insane level of combo starting. And moreover, the Z move is completely uncannable. You cannot cantrick this. Like it breaks your instant. You can't cantrick this. And now for the X move, you send your opponent up on the air and smash it down. And this move, the first hit breaks your instant, but after the first hit, you can cantrick it. But the combo potential is still pretty high because of this. I don't even need to explain, the Gravity Cane is easy and S tier, above the Dragon Trident. We're moving to legendaries, and first let's talk about this garbage sword. Probably the worst, literal worst sword in the entire game because of these two moves. Now both moves breaks your instant, but look at this. Like you're not going to land this in PvP. Even though both moves, you can't cantrick both moves. Like, what is that damage, bro? 2.6k. You're not landing this in PvP. It's so bad. There's nothing good about this sword except for like instant breaking. Like this is garbage. I mean the spinning part is okay, but like 2 point. It's the legendary sword and it's this bad. Yeah, I don't even need to explain this one. It's an easy F tier, below the Katana. Like, I have a higher chance than landing Katana than this garbage. Now for Pole V2, Pole V2 is pretty okay, because the Z move stuns your enemy. Like, even though the Z move is cannibal, you can dodge it, but the X move is where it comes in clutch. I mean, just look at the stun. Like, there's like almost 2 seconds of stun there. And most importantly, the X move breaks your instant, and it doesn't have end lag, which means you can use God Human after you use the X move really fast. Like, look at this. Like, I can use God Human during the X move. That's literally crazy. But since it's hard to use Pole V2 as a starting combo, I'm giving it a B tier above Flail. The next sword is obtained from Kitsune Shrine, and this sword is arguably the best stun sword, like because of the Z move. And some pros consider this sword is a top tier. Now damage is okay, but the stun is so long. Unlike Pole V2, the Z move only breaks your instant at the first hit and the final hit, but the Z move stuns longer than the Pole V2 X move, even though the Pole V2 X move breaks instant completely. Now the whole version of the X move, only the final hit breaks your instant, but the tap version, the first hit breaks your instant and the fire just cannibal. And for damage, combo potential, stuns is so good, even mobility is okay. I'm going to give the Fox Slam between the Dragon Trident and the Gravity Cane. And now for Cam Vander. The Z move, if it's a direct hit, it breaks your instant. And the X move just completely breaks your instant. You can't trick the X move. The Z move only breaks your instant in direct hit. And when you M1 twice, you dash forward a little bit. Now honestly, damage wise is okay, but in terms of fast one-shot combos, is considered decent. And I've seen some pros or sweats actually using this sword in PvP. I'm going to give Cam Vander a B tier above the Flail. Now we're gonna test Rengoku and the Fire Sword, and this sword is comparable with the Dark Blade because of the damage. And the first Z move, look at this. Look at the damage, bro. 6k, bro. 6k. Like, that's pretty good damage. And only the first 3 hits can be can-tricked. The final hit and the take damage breaks your instant. And for the X move, it's just completely breaks your instant. Yeah, the X move just completely breaks your instant. You can't trick the X move. No matter it's the hold version or the tap version, it just, like, yeah, you can't trick the X move. And also the X move does insane damage. I'm going to give the Rengoku a B tier. Oh no, I'm gonna give it an A tier. For Midnight Blade, I'm going to test the Z move. And the animation is so clean and the visual effects are perfect. The damage is okay, and it requires a direct hit to break instant. And for the X move, it's same as the Z move, requires a direct hit to break instant, and the visual effects are also okay. I'm going to place the Midnight Blade probably in the top of the B tier. And now for the Coco sword, I have to use control first, because there's a special feature later. And normally without control, the damage is the actual same as the Z and the X move. Like, it's 4,979. And the X move should be the same, yes, but the range is not really that good. And with control, there's something special. Now, not the Z move. The Z move is just the same. But the X move, just look at this.
Nice.
You can literally snipe people from miles away, similar to the Buddy Sword. But honestly, it's outclassed by the Buddy Sword. So I'm going to place Coco like, probably like a C tier. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to place it in the C tier. Still better than Soul Cane though, because Soul Cane requires a lot of skill. And now for the Dragon Heart, the best high burst damage combo sword. Now the Z move, you can cantrick the Z move, but the damage is 6.7k if you can't cantrick it. And for the X move, there's a tap version like this. Damage is 5.9k, and you can cantrick after the first hit. Like, you can cantrick at the explosion. But the first hit breaks your instant. And you can hold the X move if you want to snipe people away. For like, and it does 7k damage, bro. That's crazy. This sword is considered as one of the highest burst damage sword in the entire game. I'm going to place the Dragon Heart above the Gravity Cane because people use it for high burst damage, and it's better than Gravity Cane in my opinion. And now for the Dark Dagger. The Z move completely breaks your instant. You cannot cantrick the Z move. And for the X move, you can cantrick at the first hit, but it still holds you down, and the second hit just breaks your instant. And it has pretty good combo potential. Yeah, the Dark Dagger is actually decent. But the problem is, it's so hard to obtain because Rip Injara never drops it. I'm going to give the Dark Dagger an A tier below the Rengoku because the combo potential is so good. And now for the Sharp Anchor. This sword is the one of the top best sword in the entire game because of this. Now, you can cantrick at the spinning part and the flinging part, but the explosion breaks your instant. Which means if you can see the cooldown, it's almost as fast as the Gravity Cane. Like, that's crazy. You can just tap it and then it flings on the enemy, and that AoE is so high. And it also breaks your instant, the explosion. For the X move, the first hit and the last hit breaks your instant. You can cantrick the middle part and escape. But the Z move really carries a lot. Like, if you like go race and you like to spam, this is for you. This is goated. This sword is absolutely goated. I'm going to give the Sharp Anchor an S tier above the Dragon Heart. And now for Bisento V2. This sword also has a really high burst damage, but it's outclassed by Dragon Heart in my opinion, and it's debatable with the Dark Blade. Now, if you M1 4 times, if you click 4 times, it does a slam similar to the Shark Saw and the Iron Mace, which does a little bit knockback. And the X move does 5.3k, okay, and the Z move does 5.8k. And let's see if we combine this together, how much damage it does. Look at it, just look at this, man.
Nice.
11k. That's literally high burst damage. I mean, it's outclassed by Dragon Heart, but you cannot cantrick this because X move breaks your instant. Z move, despite cannibal, you can use it during the X move because X move has no end lag. I'm going to place the Bisento V2 between Rengoku and Dark Dagger. It's definitely better than Dark Dagger, but I don't think it's better than Rengoku. And now for the Saber V2. This sword has the highest single move damage in the entire game because of the Z move. Like, I even have 600 mastery on this and Sharpshooter to do 10% more damage. Just look at Z move, man. 9.3k in one single move. No buff accessories on sword. And for the X move, it just does 5.8k. But combined together, I did 15k. What is that damage, bro? But the problem with the Saber V2 is both moves can be easily dodged with instant. Without the cyborg race, you're basically not going to hit this. And both moves are like in close range. It's really hard to land it. I'm sorry, I'm going to give Saber a C tier. Even though it's really good in damage, there's no mobility and it's so hard to land it. I personally think Flail is more easier to land than Saber, even though Saber does more damage. And Flail actually blinds the opponent. Also, it breaks instant too. If you have good aim, use this sword, the Buddy Sword. The Z move, you can dodge the first hit, but after it hits, it's not dodgeable. It breaks your instant. The take damage and the final 3 hits breaks your instant. And for the X move, it's based on your range. If you're far enough, you can do more damage. If you're close, you do lesser damage. And the X move breaks your instant completely. You can't cantrick the X move. I'm going to place the Buddy Sword between Bisento V2 and Dark Dagger. Like, I just don't think that Buddy Sword is better than Bisento because I don't have good aim. And now for the Spiky Trident. One of the best combo extending sword. Now normally the Z move doesn't matter much. It just holds the enemy down, and it's not recommended to use it because even though it has combo extending, they can easily cantrick the Z move. And the X move is also cannibal. It's also dodgeable, the X move, but it's so fast. Like, it pulls you so fast. You won't be able to react before you like cantrick it. And the X move is a really good combo extender. It also stuns you a little bit after it pulls you. But both moves are cantrickable, but the combo extending potential carries a lot. I guess I'll place the spiky trident between the fox slam and the gravity cane. And now for Tushita, the Z move is completely breaks your instant. The X move also completely breaks your instant. But the knockback is just too much. The combo potential is okay if you use two moves together, but the knockback is still too much. I'm going to place Tushita at top B tier, even though it's below Dark Dagger, because Dark Dagger has more combo potential. But Tushita knockback is just too much. Now for Yama, the Z move doesn't really matter, but it has good mobility. You can dodge a lot with the Z move, but the X move has insane combo extending. Breaks instant. I mean, you can cantrick if it hits like really badly, but most likely it breaks your instant. The X move can be used for combo starting or combo extending, both works. I'm going to place Yama above Fox Slam because like the combo extending and combo starting of Yama is just too good. But it's not better than Spiky Trident in my opinion. And for Orochi, this sword is mainly for infinite combos. And the Z move just stuns the enemy for like 4 to 5 seconds if you like hold it for so long. And the Z move breaks your instant completely too. The X move doesn't do much because it's cannibal, it easily can be dodged. But if you like infinite combos, this sword is for you. I'm going to place Orochi probably above Camfander. It's better than Camfander and Flail because of the infinite combo potential. And now for Saii, the Z move, only the first hit breaks your instant. After the first hit of Saishi's Z move, it doesn't. You can just cantrick it. And the X move doesn't need to explain. It's easily cantrickable. Combo potential is it's alright, but not really that good. I genuinely think that Saishi deserves like, oh my god. I think it's like below Soul Cane. Yeah, it's literally below Soul Cane. It's just not that good, okay? And finally, for Shishu, this sword is probably the second worst legendary sword. Because both moves doesn't break instant. You can cantrick both moves easily. But there's a redeeming part, which is when you do two moves together, it has the fastest one-shot combo. If you have enough damage. Look at this. Like, it has the fastest one-shot combo. But that's the only redeeming part. Like, that's just it. Yeah. I'm placing Shishu below Twin Hook. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, it's so bad. Yeah, Shishu is just bad. Even worse than Flail and Twin Hook. But it's still better than Longsword. Because, like, you know, Longsword is even worse. But it's just not that good overall. And now for Mythicals. Now, this sword is another really underrated sword. The Hollow Scythe. Now, the Z move is cantrickable. And for the X move, even though it moves really slow, it breaks your instant. But it has an end leg after it hits. The X move also do more damage if their enemy is lower health. As you can see. Now, I'm going to explain why this sword is underrated and is actually good. It's because of these two moves combined together. You use the Z move first and then the X move. Just look at this. They cannot cantrick at this moment because the X move was holding them down while the Z move is doing damage. There's no end leg of the Z move. Like, combine this together, it can do a really good combo ender, which only barely a few people notice. I'm going to place the Hollow Scythe below the Buddy Sword. It's so underrated. I genuinely think that it's better than Dark Dagger if you manage to use it as a combo ender. Now for the Dark Blade, the Z move breaks your instant if the enemy is close to you. And for the X move, you can dodge it if it's a tap version. And if you hold the Z move, you dash forward and does the same slash. And holding the X move will break instant if it's a direct hit. And since the Dark Blade is used in high burst damage one-shot combos, I'm placing it below Rengoku, but it's above Bisento a little bit. Rengoku is just a little bit better than Dark Blade because Rengoku breaks instant much more. And now for the true triple katana. The Z move, it breaks your instant at the first hit and the final hit. You can cantrick at the middle. But the main point is the X move. It sends your enemy so high and the damage is so good. And it has the highest damage M1 in the entire game. If you don't include the true triple roll. And if you combine the X move with God Human Z or Zanguin Z, you lock the enemy inside the tornado. Now personally, I think the true triple katana is better than the sharp anchor if you like combos. But in spamming and combos combined, sharp anchor is better. Finally, the cursed dual katana. This sword is originally the best sword, but in my opinion, I think it's worse than true triple katana. Now the Z move just holds your enemy down, and the holding part breaks your instant. After releasing the tornado, they can cantrick, but the explosion of the tornado breaks your instant. And for the X move, no matter the tap version or the hold version, you can only cantrick the X move after the initial hit. Well, technically, you can cantrick the X move if it hits indirectly, but most players won't really cantrick the X move at the first hit. This sword has really high combo potential. You can just hold Z move and then just do X move, and the damage is so high. But I genuinely think that sharp anchor is still slightly better because you really can't spam cursed dual katana. And for the true triple dark blade, I'm just gonna borrow Hyper J's video to showcase it. Now, according to Hyper J, since he's probably the only YouTuber I'm close with, and according to him, he said the true triple dark blade does 1.5k more damage than original dark blade in left clicks, and slightly more area of effect AoE, and that's just it. So I'm just gonna assume that it's better than Rengoku a little bit, since the AoE and also it does more damage in left clicks. It should be better than Rengoku, I think. And yeah, that's the tier list of mine. Tell me, is it accurate in the comments. I'll see you on the next Blox video. Goodbye.